Hello, friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we are appreciating the third-party form in third-party Transformers. And today, I'm going to be taking a look at Unique Toys Kalecgos, or Kalecgos, or however you pronounce it, I don't know. It's their version of Onslaught, basically, for their Ragnaros, or Bruticus, combiner. And this guy is pretty much the embodiment of how I feel about third-party figures in general. Meaning that he absolutely looks the part, but he is a little bit more fiddly to transform than I would like. Now, I don't mean to say that his transformation is bad per se. It's actually pretty darn clever and very effective. The issue that I have is more like certain things are just a little bit more fiddly than they probably need to be, and this is nowhere near as bad as G Creations' Ultra Maximus, I think. Compared to that, this is a walk in the park. But there are just certain aspects to the transformation that are a little bit like, but that's kind of neither here nor there, because we're really just here to talk about the aesthetics. And the aesthetics of this truck mode are pretty darn fantastic. I mean, it's a big truck with a trailer that actually bends. I mean, that's great. It's a very, very cool truck. Rolls quite well, too. Even rolls on a curve. You can see it actually follows the curve there. Neat truck, very cool, lots of nice little details on it. I'm not super into what they did for the detail on the back here, just in terms of truck mode. I mean, I think it's fine for the robot mode and the combine mode, but like this here is just too busy for what is basically the flatbed of truck. I mean, you got a little bit of that, like a more truck appropriate details here and here with like that textured metal design there. And I mean, there are nice details in general, though the very overt sprue marks are a little bit unfortunate for a high-end collectible. It's just that I feel like a lot of the details that are on this are really busy in terms of this this as the back of a truck. As robot bits, it's fine, but just as the back of a truck, it's kind of meh. And of course, they painted the rims on the wheels and the tires. Don't know if it's rubber or soft plastic, but they're definitely a little squishy. So that's cool. And you can see they painted the rims all the way through, which I love. And even here, you've got like a little bit of silver detail here and here for like the lip or ledges where people would step up to get into the truck. So nice texture and detail overall. It's just that some of it doesn't quite seem appropriate for a large flatbed truck. Weirdly, this spot right here is quite plain. Like there's a little bit of detail in here, but then that is just, And also this, I don't know why this is green. I mean, it might be a callback to the original toy. I don't have the G1 toy to do a comparison, but like this green you only see here, and it just kind of seems out of place. I even painted like a little detail up there too. I just think if this was the same color as the rest of the truck, it would probably work better, but again, they may be, referencing like the original toy. I don't know. And for no reason whatsoever, we've got see-through windows on the front. Thankfully, they're dark enough and the bits are tucked back far enough that you don't really see any kind of robot junk hiding in there. But yeah, clear windows. Boo. Though I do like that they painted that bit right in the middle there. Also, we've got this. Why did they do this? You've got that clear plastic that they used for the front windows, just kind of stapled on top of solid plastic. They did that same thing with Perukil, and it doesn't look good. I don't know why they wanted to do that. I mean, it's not the worst thing, it's just like, this just would have been so much better if they used like either a really, really dark plastic or a different color of plastic or like a painted, like separate painted pieces. Moving along to the front here, nice silver grille with clear headlights that have absolutely nothing behind them except the regular blue plastic for the rest of the truck, thus making them not really work that well as headlights. Like if this had been a different color, like the plastic had been a different color for the light bits itself, or if it had been painted or whatever, like just something that's not that blue, like if it was orange or yellow or something. It's just a lot of little details that I feel like they dropped the ball on with this truck mode, and I don't really know why. Just seems like something that could have easily been addressed, but I don't know. I wasn't there for the design process. Still, just the overall shape of the truck is nice. And then these guns do look quite nice themselves. And these I kind of like how there's just enough detail, but it's not too busy, and there's a lot of nice paint here and there with some unpainted bits that probably could have been painted, but it's like a nicer mixture of not being too busy, but not being too plain. Except like right here. I think that molding in here is probably a little too busy, but I say. Anyway, there we have Kalecgos' truck mode, and let's bring some other stuff in for size comparisons real quick. And here we have the Amiibo and the Power of the Primes Deluxe, and you can see that this is quite a big truck mode. It's no slouch in that department. I mean, Slug is big enough to just be on the flatbed with room to spare. Actually, if you turn him this way, there's room for a whole second Power of the Primes Dinobot next to him. So yeah, pretty big truck mode. Not that, you know, the size of the truck is what's really important here, but you definitely get a fair bit of plastic for your money, I'll give it that. And because how could I not, here's Kalecgos with Gazronka, and Gazronka very, very barely fits on there with that little plate turned around, otherwise definitely would not be able to, but yeah, pretty big. The Jeep is roughly the same size as the truck cab, which not really to scale. The people driving the Jeep would have to be huge, but as I've said many times in the past, I'm not really that big into scale, so this doesn't particularly bother me. Here we've got Kalecgos with Archimond, and Archimond definitely fits better on that flatbed at the back there. Pretty sure that's intentional. It'll probably come as no surprise to anyone who watches my videos regularly, but I never owned Bruticus as a kid. I never had any real attachment to Bruticus, so what little I know is just through kind of osmosis and watching other people's videos, so I don't know if this is how Brawl is supposed to be normally carried around on Onslaught's backside, or if that's supposed to go to Vortex or Blastoff. I would think it would make more sense to go on Blastoff, but at the same time, Blastoff is supposed to be a space shuttle, and space shuttles are way bigger than the back of a flatbed of a truck, so I don't know. But regardless, he fits quite nicely on the back of Kalecgos there, and looks pretty good. I also like that the green plastics are pretty much the same shade. Kind of brings the set together, I think. Yeah, there's no tan or purple on either of these guys, so Swindle / Gazronka kind of stands out, but I feel like once we get Vortex and Blastoff, whatever they're calling them, probably see a little bit more of a cohesive color pattern going throughout the rest of them. Alright, so with all those comparisons out of the way, let's get that transformation over with. Okay, first off, my apologies if any of that was not framed properly on the camera. This guy is shockingly big for what he is, and I was having trouble keeping him on camera while also seeing what I was doing, while also holding him at arm's length and doing all those transformations. So if one or two parts were obscured, I am sorry. But after powering through all of that, here we have Kalecgos in his robot mode, and this is kind of spectacular. I mean, I am not an Onslaught fanboy by any means. Like I said, I never had the original Bruticus. I was never really into the lore of anything. I thought Combiners were cool, but Bruticus was not my favorite, and not a whole lot of connection to the cartoons. I have no nostalgia whatsoever connected to this figure or the character that the figure is based on. With that in mind, this looks absolutely fantastic. I don't know how accurate it is. I don't care how accurate it is. This just looks really good. The proportions on this guy are spectacular. Like, he basically has sort of like bodybuilder proportions. He's got this enormous chest and really thick arms, but like, it's done in a way that doesn't seem overly done. He's got a big chest and thick arms, but they're not so big that they look kind of ridiculous. This just looks intimidating, and I absolutely love it. Like, the silhouette on this guy is fantastic. I know the guns sticking up off the top there, which are kind of going off camera, but this is as far back as I can pull it with my current setup, so sorry. But yeah, those guns I know are a typical part of Onslaught's look, which is totally fine by me. And they do look good. They add a little bit more silver to his overall, not silhouette, but because the way he's done, there's a lot of blue here, so that little bit of silver in the back does help. Though there is some, like on the cuffs of the arms there, and that little bit in the center and on the face, which we will bring him in closer for that in a minute. But yeah, I'm just kind of in awe of this guy in his robot mode. He's really cool, and I hate to do it because this is a video review, and this is going to mean absolutely squat to anyone watching this, but he just feels good to hold. Like, he's really nicely dense and heavy, and I appreciate that very much. That said, he does have the typical problems that a lot of people were having with this figure. The waist joint on mine, it was ratcheted out of the box. It is not ratcheted anymore because that ratchet just failed after transforming him twice. I'm with Emgo on this. The loss of that waist ratchet is no big deal because he's totally fine without it. The waist joint itself is tight enough that you don't really have to worry about it, and it's a waist joint. You're not going to be holding weight on that swivel there, so it's not a big deal. His hips, and, well, just pretty much his hips, those ratchets are pretty serious, and I haven't messed with them too much, so they haven't broken on me yet. That may be because I haven't really bothered with any kind of posing with him other than just standing there looking intimidating, but he takes up less space on the shelf this way, and he pulls off just standing there looking intimidating really well, so I'm not that broken up about it. He looks really, really good. He looks so good. The one thing about his design that does sort of bug me is the fact that, and again, just remember, I explained my perspective when we first got him into robot mode, so keep that in mind, but the thing that bugs me about his design is the fact that he's got a really nice balance of textured detail and paint and, you know, blankness up top here. Like, there are spots that aren't full of molded detail, and I think that works really well, like the fact that the forearms aren't super textured and the arms there, and even the chest plate, there are spots that don't have molding in them, and I think that's a really nice balance. From the knee down, he's a little bit busy. I still think it looks cool, but just pointing out, these bits right in here, especially the shins, are just a little bit overdone. They could probably have toned down some of the molding just a tiny bit, and this would match a little bit better with the upper body. As it is, it stands out a little bit because it's a bit busier than the rest of him. Alright, so let's bring him in closer here. Oh, this is a reach because he's really big. Well, not really big, but he's a lot bigger than you might think. Anyway, here you can see he's got some really nice detail and painted bits on the feet and the shins, which again, a little too busy for my taste, but still looks good. I don't dislike the design of the knee pads here, but I have the same issue as these windows here where the clear plastic right in front of the regular blue plastic, and it's like, why? I just feel like they could have put some color in here to make them look like lights or something like that. or make them darker. So, I don't know. For the legs, they even painted the knee joint there, which is pretty cool. And some up on the thighs there. And this bit here is carved out because that's where the hips fold down for the combiner mode, but this is actually a really cool detail all on its own. And of course, you got pelvis area going up into the stomach, which also has some nice painted bits in there. And I like the blockiness of the chest and how there's just a little bit of color right in there. And of course, that piston going down the center is pretty cool. And the arms are just the front of the truck cab unfolded to make arms, but it works really well. I do actually quite like how that turns out. And these bits on his shoulders, they don't get in the way as much as I thought they would, which is good, because you can kind of reposition them a little bit because of the ball joints, so he can still move his arms without them blocking anything, but I don't know that they necessarily needed to be there, but whatever. And that head is, like I said, not an Onslaught fanboy, not super versed in Onslaught. From what I've seen in pictures and other figures, that is definitively an Onslaught face, but it's just a really nice face. There's just something to the design of that helmet and the split between the faceplate and the eyes that just really looks good. I also like they even painted these little bits on the neck plate there. Though, as you can see, there are some unsightly sprue marks on him, even in this mode. It's not the kind of thing I would really want from a not cheap third-party collectible, but I can live with it. Cleans up pretty nice too. It's pretty much just the guns on his back. I know some people have had problems with the fact that you can't take these guns off and have him use them as weapons. And yeah, you cannot. These things are fixed. Like if I open it up, you can see right back here. They are on these armatures, and these armatures do not come out. They are pinned in place, so there is not going to be any taking the guns apart to have him wield as firearms. I'm fine with it personally, because he's just this enormous bruiser-looking guy, and I feel like he doesn't necessarily need rifles of any kind, because he's just this enormous powerhouse that could probably rip other bots in half with his bare hands. At least that's the impression that I get. But yeah, if you're bothered by that, it is a thing to consider. He has no weapons whatsoever. It's just beefcake, and that's it. But he is very impressive. And I do like that you get a little bit better of a color balance here with like these purples in the feet and the torso. A little bit more green, so you no longer get the green for like the wheel wells, but you get it on the shoulders and the pelvis there. And like a little scattered silver, a little scattered gray. I haven't seen any images of the vortex that they're working on, not painted anyway, but I'm hoping and assuming that there's going to be at least one or two colors on him that kind of go with vortex, because I'm pretty sure that purple would go with blast off, and I know it goes pretty well with Gazranka. And speaking of, let's start those size comparisons so we can actually see him with the rest of the team so far. So, yeah. This is what I meant when I said he is actually quite a bit bigger than you might expect. Kalecgos is not huge in the grand scheme of things. Fans Toys Grinder is bigger, Devastator's obviously bigger, Combiners are bigger, but he's not small. He's pretty big. He's like that sweet spot for me where he's big enough for me to think he's really impressive and cool, but not so big that I think he's annoying to try and fit on a shelf. Though I will say those guns in the back, those get in the way, so I end up having to like rotate them all the way around, which you can do. It's just, you don't get the full effect, but I literally cannot fit him on my shelf otherwise, so take what I can get. And here we have him with the rest of the team so far, and this looks so amazingly good. I really cannot wait to get my hands on the other two. I did mess around a little bit with combining them, and Ragnaros without arms still looks pretty impressive, not gonna lie, but just having the team like this, and again, I have no attachment to the team whatsoever, but just they look so good together. I mean, there's a good chance when the other two come out, I may keep them like this. Like, I'm sure I'll combine them once or twice, but all of them standing together like this, it looks really, really good. And here you can actually get a better sense of how Kalecgos actually ties in color-wise to both of the others. Yeah, in truck mode, he didn't really tie into Gazranka, but now you've got that purple that he actually has in a couple of spots. And of course, with Archimond, he's got the green for the shoulders and pelvis and stuff. It's just interesting how color-wise, it looks like he's going to be kind of tying the team together. It's a neat bit of detail. I don't know how accurate that is to the cartoon or the original toy. It may be, in which case it was a really great idea back then too. But yeah, I really, really like how this team is shaping up, and like I keep saying, have no attachment whatsoever to the team. So I feel like that's probably somewhat telling. So yeah, Kalecgos. I know there are supposedly QC issues with this guy with regards to his joints, and I did have that one issue with his waist. The hip joints are very tight, and I don't really feel comfortable messing with them. Definitely something to be aware of. And this, as I can remember, this is one of the earlier releases of this guy. I just took forever to actually do a video on him. So hopefully, because I think they've done 1 or 2 releases since the initial release, hopefully they've addressed a couple of those QC issues since then. But speaking purely as someone who has no ties to Bruticus, no ties to the Combaticons, no nostalgia to fall back on, speaking purely as someone who collects transforming robot toys because I think they're cool, this guy, this set, is fantastic. I will say, while I had a couple of issues with Archimond in terms of tabs and things like that, I've not had those kinds of issues with Kalecgos. Not yet. Yeah, just aesthetically speaking, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth. I'm not making official, final statements on things as they stand. But for me, which everything that I say in all these videos, just try and keep that in mind. I'm speaking for myself. In my mind, this is the best looking toy representation of Onslaught I have ever seen. This just, it looks, I don't want to say perfect, but I kind of do. for my purposes anyway. It's amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. But anyway, that has been Unique Toys Kalecgos, or Kalecgos, or whatever. What do you all think? I'm sure there are people watching this who know a lot more about Onslaught, the Combaticons, and Bruticus than I do, and actually care a lot more about things like G1 representation, IDW representation, like any of that stuff. So by all means, chime in, let me know what you think about Kalecgos here, because you're probably way more qualified to talk about how he relates to that than I am. Probably nothing. You are way more qualified to talk about that than I am. And even if you're not, please let me know. I mean, what do you all think, regardless of your connection to all this stuff? What do you think of Kalecgos here? Because, like I said, I think he looks absolutely amazing. And if the opportunity did present itself and you could get your hands on all 5 of these guys, what would your preferred method of display be? Yes, I know it's a little too early to tell because we haven't really gotten good pictures of Vortex and Blastoff yet, but I can't be the only person who feels like these guys may actually be a stronger display piece as a team than combined up as Ragnaros. Anyway, that is going to do it. So, by all means, please feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments. I do enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like or subscribe. Any combination of those 3 would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.